Today we have with me Chris LeBlanc, CEO of Norfield Development Partners. And we wanted to just have a quick conversation about a one-year look back. Chris was actually placed into his role with our client about a year ago, May, and a lot's happened since then. So we like to have these conversations to get a perspective on, what he walked into and where is it a year later. So Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you. Talk about yourself for a few minutes and what you walked into.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Carl. And thanks for inviting me today. So as mentioned, Chris LeBlanc, CEO of the Norfield Development Partners. Norfield is a US-based software company providing solutions to the damage prevention industry. The company's been innovating solutions for more than 40 years. So I like to say that we're an old company with young minds and young initiatives. We service a range of different customers throughout the damage prevention industry, infrastructure, government, construction, excavation-based companies, utilities, manufacturing, and then 811 contact centers. Our mantra, if you will, is we drive safety through innovation. My background is I've been in technology for software primarily for over 20 years. I've lived and worked internationally and for many, many different software companies, including several in Silicon Valley, which is where I was running a company before joining Norfield.
Awesome. It's a great intro. And I know since you joined, probably a lot has changed. So maybe paint a picture of what you walked into and then where you are today. What were some of the key initiatives that you had in that first year in the new job as a CEO of Norfield?
Yeah, so I think, going into the opportunity, like any executive joining, a new company and the situation that you go into, you're presented with, multiple inputs from different people who have various understanding and involvement, about the organization. I intentionally go into, opportunities and I don't make any assumptions. I believe that, listening and really taking time to learn, about the organization and the role that you're going into is just paramount. I do have to say that, both you and John at TalentRise did an incredible job of setting up, sort of expectations. I appreciated the fact about how realistic you guys were about what I was, potentially looking at, while I evaluated the opportunity. And your consultative approach, was extremely helpful, I think, in making my decision. So I really appreciate that. You guys didn't try and oversell anything. It was really just a situation of you laid out, a lot of the groundwork for me, right? Laid out sort of where you believed that the organization was at based on the feedback that you had been given and provided. And I felt that was really instrumental in, me being able to make my decision, to join the organization. The company today, 1 year later, has changed tremendously. And if you don't mind, I'd like to sort of share with you just some of those things that have happened. So, in the first year since I've been on board, we've gone and changed our entire business model. The way that we operate, the way that we think, had to all change along with it. And so, why did we do this? Well, when I started with the organization, there were several observations I think that I had, and many of the team members, including, at Norfield, had as well, where, we're looking at an industry that was, desperate for technological advancement, and really hadn't had, anybody coming in thinking differently about what can be provided into the market. The market, from a technology perspective, in my opinion, has been just, woefully underserved. You've got a fragmented competitive landscape where, systems from a competitive nature don't really talk to each other, things like that. So if I look at those three things and I look at that and say, wow, what an amazing opportunity. So I look at that and then I look at that and say, That coupled with the potential market size, we're between Canada and the US, analysts sort of suggest that it's about a $12.7 billion market opportunity in the damage prevention space. So we look at all these things and say, this is an incredible opportunity for us. And what do we really need to do in order to get there? So the changes that have been put in place, we've transitioned. I mentioned the business model earlier. We've transitioned into becoming a growth-based company, which we weren't set up to be before. We need to build shareholder value. We've got 7 partners in our operating agreement who are owners of Norfield, and it's extremely important that not only do we advance the company and grow and create new streams of revenue, but obviously we build shareholder value for them in the equity that they have, but also in the services that we provide to those members. Interestingly enough, the 7 members that they have, they're also customers of Norfield as well. So it's an interesting dynamic, on a daily basis between those two hats that that they wear. Increase our market penetration. And by doing that, really what we decided is we needed to become a technology disruptor. So, in January, we launched what we're calling our Logix platform. It's LOGIX. It's, a key element of this offering is a product that we're launching and building at the moment called Insight Logix. It's a continuous intelligence platform that integrates real-time analytics into business operation, basically performing automated calculations that recommend specific actions that need to be taken. So what does this mean for the damage prevention industry? Through leveraging the augmented analytics in real time, we're basically able to shape how people and technology respond to the changing conditions, and eliminate a lot of the damages that prevention that occur today. If ultimately what we're looking for is how do we keep people safe, right? And how do we, the two big things within the damage prevention industry is obviously first and foremost is safety and keeping not only the individual safe, but the communities that they work within safe. All of that infrastructure, when you're going into the ground, you got to make sure that it's not being accidentally damaged or hit or some kind. But then, the byproduct of that, when an error does occur, is there's massive costs implication to that infrastructure. And it's literally billions and billions of dollars annually of damages that occur that need to be repaired. And so we're looking at this as that opportunity for us. Tackling those two problems is the biggest one, and that's really what we're focusing a lot of our new technology, the Logix platform that I mentioned, around.
From my perspective, thinking back to when you joined the organization, I think they were really more of a software platform around a call center to just notify and alert when there might be an error made in advance of digging or doing something for the utility industry.
Right.
And so you've really kind of taken that light years from where they were in the business in terms of your vision for how they can take what they already started with and create new products to anticipate and use data and analytics in ways that will enhance their business. So kudos.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And, you're absolutely right in what you're saying with regards to, where the organization was. And I think, Norfield sort of fell into and was victim of where a lot of the, competitive landscape is today, right? They think one way about it. And, I do believe that from my past experiences and, having been part of other industries and things like that, and coming in and sort of maybe just putting a bit of fresh eyes onto things, you look at things a little bit differently, right? You hear the concerns that people have about what's happening, and you try and address it differently. I think the other thing is, and why I believe that the industry is, ready for change like this is, I'll give you a great example that I was on a industry analyst call 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks ago. And one of the things that they were highlighting was the average age of excavators. And so obviously the excavators are the guys that, go out and use heavy equipment and, break ground and, are doing a lot of the work, to get infrastructure prepared or whatever they might be doing. Well, interestingly enough, if you go back to 2019, the average age of an excavator in the United States was 53 years old. Sorry, 56 years old, I stand corrected, 56 years old. They're forecasting that by the year 2024, the average age is going to be about 32 years old. So what does this mean? You've got a generational shift that's happening. And within that generational shift, they look at technology and how to use technology and how they adapt things a lot differently than somebody who's older than them. And so, we as an organization need to be ready for that. We need to adapt what we're delivering to the market to make sure that we're addressing the end user community with something that is going to be seamless and scalable and straightforward, but easy for them to use and accomplish those things easily.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you've done a great job there. When you think about the opportunity today, what has been most rewarding about the position so far?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I've been in software and technology for, over 20 years. And I've had the good fortune of being able to run global businesses, internationally, as well as domestically here, as I mentioned, the last couple of years working in Silicon Valley. And this is really the first business that I've been part of where safety is at the forefront of everything we do every day. And our industry is responsible for ensuring the well-being and success of, any construction project, infrastructure related, asset related projects where we live, work, and play, right? So our software is the backbone of all of that, and becoming even more important, as we start to develop, new technology and deliver it to the market. So I think for me, that was really the thing that jumped out early on as something that I hadn't had in my career in the past, of just, the efforts that you put in, how meaningful it can be, to protecting people and creating, safety measures that are unparalleled and unheard of elsewhere.
It's always nice when you have a mission and something that's a greater purpose behind the day-to-day that job that you have. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like that's exactly what you've uncovered in this particular opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
When you think about what the job was in the beginning and what it is today, is it a much bigger opportunity, or is it kind of what you expected?
I think, anytime you come into, like I mentioned earlier, right? The expectation of what coming into this position was, I took several inputs. Obviously, the team at TalentRise provided me with a great amount of information and detail. The board members that I met with, before joining the organization, provided me with their view of things and how the company was doing, how the industry was performing, the needs, that sort of stuff. I did my own research. I talked to people. Obviously, you can't be ever 100% prepared for what you're going into. I think I had a decent baseline understanding of, not only where the organization sat at that time, a year ago, but, potentially, the things that needed to be looked at and addressed. And obviously, changing that business model, like I said, was really, I think, the big catalyst for how we're going forward. The things that I didn't realize was the tremendous market opportunity here, and just how it almost seems like everything is starting to come into alignment where I believe that what you're going to start to see among a lot of the providers today is you're going to start to see a little bit of a consolidation going on. I think that there are some technology providers, whether it's, here in the United States or in Canada or even in, the UK or places like that that aren't going to be able to make that technological leap that they need to in order to provide, services into the future. You've probably heard about, the law of diffusion of innovation, right? And how there's, after that adoption comes, there's that hockey stick effect that, takes place where technology crosses that chasm. Well, I think we're seeing that in the damage prevention industry. And what we're really seeing is, there's going to be the laggards, right? Those that get left behind and just can't cross that chasm and can't make the leap. I look at that obviously from a company perspective, is that's a real opportunity for us. We're centered around the platforms that we're under development right now. We've got, I mentioned Insight Logics. We've got 4 other software products that we're in development on. We've launched one of them into the market called Locator Logics back in May. And the market response to that has been tremendous. That's really our first product that we've launched to get mass market appeal. It's a SaaS-based service model, and it's getting phenomenal traction over the last couple of months. So we're very happy with that. But that's what I mean by, you sort of got the old guard that was there and the old way of thinking. And then I think you've got some companies who are trying to think about it differently. Obviously, Norfield is one of them.
That's awesome. Great track record for a short period of time. Looking ahead, what are the big initiatives on the horizon that you envision, that you have planned for the next 12 months or so at Norfield?
Yeah. So, as I just mentioned, we got a lot going on. Our strategy is, just super, super important to us, and, how we're going to execute on that. I mentioned in January, we launched the Logics platform. So this is really a key element for us. And, a new offering, the Insight Logics product that I talked about with the continuous intelligence platform, and those 4 other technologies that we have going on. The big thing for us right now is, how do we use and leverage data and information differently than anybody else in the market? And that's really the big thrust of what we're trying to do, because what that does is that plays into all of the other services and offerings that we're able to bring to market. And so for the next 12 months, we've got our roadmap locked in. We've got our strategic plan in place. We've got our near-term and mid-term milestones that we want to go out and go after. I would say that the future is quite bright for the organization. We're really looking at things differently, and even some of the folks who have been in Norfield for a number of years, I think are looking at this as almost Norfield 2.0. It's a refresh of the company. And a new direction that we're pursuing. So, our next 12 months, extremely busy. We're entering new verticals from a go-to-market approach. We're looking for and building some strategic partnerships that we have active conversations underway on. And so, there's a lot going on. 12 months flies by fast, as I've witnessed, from only being on board for 12 months. We've got a lot accomplished already, but we still have a long way to go. And like I said, we've got a great team and a great opportunity to accomplish what we want.
That's fantastic. Well, wishing you all the best in the next 12 months and beyond. They're lucky to have you. If you think back to our experience together, and kudos and thank you for the commentary earlier on how we prepped you for this opportunity. But, what stood out in terms of your experience working with TalentRise as a search firm compared to others you've worked with in the past who may have represented you?
Right. Yeah. So here's what I would say with regards to search firms and things like that. I've used search firms for recruiting purposes to hire different executives and whatnot into companies that I've been part of. Me being a candidate, I've had limited, I would say, experience, with firms, but I had always had feedback from people, that I would say there was always an undertone of frustration that existed, that people had, with other firms and things like that. And I have to say, from my very first conversation with TalentRise, I was just so impressed by the professionalism, and even more so the candor that everybody had. I wasn't particularly looking to leave the organization that I was part of at the time. But I kept the dialogue going with TalentRise because it didn't feel overbearing. It was, it was always a good, productive dialogue, and one that actually I came to look forward to, right? And so, yeah, the team at TalentRise, they're just so insightful, great communicators, very accountable to their client, but also to to the candidates. Everybody acted with just the utmost integrity, and I'm happy to say that I've maintained contact with several of the TalentRise folks. I've even had the chance to meet other members of the organization over the past year, and the qualities that I saw in that first conversation that I mentioned, they just seem to be the standard within the company, and ring true. So not only was I really impressed with with you and the rest of your team, and the organization as a whole, and just how you approach things, and sort of the handling of the situation, right? It was so important to me. I think you guys are just a grade A organization, and TalentRise, in my opinion, just stood out head and heels above everybody else.
Well, we appreciate that, and we thoroughly enjoyed our partnership through the process as well. We look forward to continuing to partner with you as you grow your team into the future and grow the business, and keeping the lines of communication open, for whatever your needs may be in the future. So Chris, again, thank you for taking time today to share a little bit about your journey and in your first year with Norfield Development. And we wish you much success and continued growth in the business.
Yeah, thanks very much, Carl. It was a pleasure catching up with you today, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks.